Okay, we will start the class. Good morning. We will continue our discussion from the previous class on phase diagrams. Okay. Again, it may be for many of you it is familiar, most of you I guess, but it will be a good revision of the material. Okay. So I hope you can see the screen. Can somebody confirm? Can
Yes,
you
sir.
see? Yes. Okay. Good. So we had discussed about two types of binary alloy phase diagrams. What was binary alloy? A mixture of two components like aluminum, copper, copper, nickel, aluminum, silicon. Any mixture of two components constitutes a binary alloy. And there were two types of phase diagrams. One in which both the elements were fully soluble in each other. So this type of phase diagram was known as isomorphous phase diagram, and we saw how to calculate the phase fractions at any temperature, how to relate the phase fractions, means volume fraction of each phase with the concentration using lever rule. So this lever rule is valid for equilibrium solidification. It means that the solidification is very slow, okay, so that at each point in time all the phases are in equilibrium with each other, okay. So it's a very slow process so that there is sufficient time for diffusion to occur, so that the concentration in the solid can change. And based on this, we had shown that, uh, for example, if we want to calculate what is the volume fraction of solid GS, it is equal to the length of the other side, so Cl minus C0 divided by the total length of the lever, Cl minus Cs. Similarly, if we want to calculate the volume fraction of liquid, it is equal to the length of the other side, Cs minus C0 minus Cs divided by Cl minus Cs. So like this we can calculate volume fraction of each phase. So after that we have studied about we have also studied how to like visualize the uh, microstructure, what type of microstructure happens for this isomorphous phase diagram, how the grain structure looks like in the final solidified product. And then we had gone to binary alloy eutectic phase diagrams. Okay, so which were more complicated. So this type of phase diagrams are present when the metallic components are not fully soluble in each other. Okay, they are soluble up to certain percentage, say 10% or 15%. After that, they are not anymore soluble. So there is a limit of maximum solubility, and this is dependent on the temperature. At higher temperature, they are more soluble. At lower temperature, they are less soluble. Okay, so beyond this point, they cannot form a single alloy. So it has to be a mixture of two alloys, because they cannot form a single alloy basically because the second component is not cannot so much amount of second component cannot be included in the first component. Okay, so only say up to 15% can be included, so rest of it cannot be included. So we need another phase where the second component is the dominant component and the first component is in very small amount. So by a mixture of the two phases, we can approach any percentage like 50% or 70%. There is also another point here which was known as the eutectic point, which we call as the eutectic point, where the solidification proceeds simultaneously with the formation of alpha and beta phases at a constant temperature in a cooperative manner. Why cooperative? Because there is cooperative diffusion between the alpha and beta phases we had discussed. We did not go into too much depth here. The only thing that we wanted to see is how the behavior, microstructure, and the uh, phase fractions look like at and the temperature versus time looks like for different cases or for different concentrations in this phase diagram. So we had taken 4 cases. One well within the limit of solid solubility. Second one was within the limit of maximum solid solubility, but outside the limit at some other temperature. Then third case was eutectic concentration, and fourth case was near eutectic concentration. Okay, it is known as near eutectic because it is higher than the maximum solubility limit and lower than the eutectic point. And we had seen all these cases. Okay, so you go through them again. So for the first case, how the cooling curve looks like and what is the microstructure. For the second case, how the cooling curve looks like and the microstructure, we have beta phases also. And we can calculate the amount of alpha and beta phases using the lever rule again, like we had done for the previous case. For example, for this case, we can calculate based on, so at this point, for example, we can calculate based on C minus, so amount of alpha phase is Cb minus C by Cb minus C alpha, and amount of beta phase is C minus C alpha by C beta minus C alpha. So just the length of the opposite side by the total length. Okay. And remember, this is for equilibrium solidification. Then we had seen the eutectic case and the near eutectic case. I am not going into the details, we have discussed in the previous class. Okay. So what we are going to study today is if the solidification is non-equilibrium, which is more realistic in real life. If there is not sufficient time for the full diffusion to occur, particularly in the solid phase, then what happens, and how the solidification progresses, and what is the evolution of concentration. Okay. So we will take some assumptions for this. I have outlined them here. I will also read them now. So to summarize, till now we have considered diffusion is infinitely fast in both solid and liquid, or there is sufficient time for diffusion. Okay. So we have full diffusion in the solid and full diffusion in the liquid. What it means is that if there is any concentration change in the solid, it can happen fully. Means say initial concentration of the solid was, I had drawn also one curve somewhere. Okay. So initial concentration of the solid was very less, Kp into C0. Then the concentration in the solid increased, and after final solidification, full solidification, the concentration of the solid increased to C0. Okay. So this increase in solid concentration can happen over the entire solid domain only if the diffusion is infinitely fast or there is sufficient time, infinite time for diffusion. In real life, this cannot happen. What will happen is that when the first solid solidifies, it may solidify with 5% concentration. When the next amount of solid solidifies, it will solidify with 6% concentration, then 7% concentration with increasing concentration. So there will be a gradient of concentration set up in the solid. Okay. But if there is infinite time available, and if there is a solid of 5% concentration and adjacent to it there is a solid of 6% concentration, the atoms from the 6% concentration will diffuse to the 5% concentration solid, and both will come to an average concentration, say 5.5%. So this average concentration can happen only if there is infinite time or the diffusivity is infinite. So in solid, the diffusivity is not infinite. Solid diffusivity is very less in general, because it is very difficult for the atoms to move, because it is the atoms are restricted to their spaces. In contrast, in the liquid, the diffusivity is quite high because the atoms can move freely. Okay, but in the solid, the diffusivity is less. So we need infinite time for equilibrium solidification. So a better assumption is that there is not sufficient time for diffusion in solid to occur. So let us come back to that case again. Okay. So the model that we are going to study for non-equilibrium solidification is also very famous. It is known as Child's model or Child's rule, Child's law. Okay. Again, many of you might have studied already, particularly those in materials department. Okay. So the previous model that we had discussed was known as lever rule, and lever rule was based on the assumption that the diffusion is infinite, like there is sufficient time for diffusion for both the solid and liquid. Okay. However, in real life, in general, the diffusion in liquid is much faster, means many orders of magnitude faster, 10 to the power 3 times faster to 10 to the power 4 times faster, 1000 to 10,000 times faster as compared to the diffusion in solid. Okay. So as a result, within a limited time, like for a normal process like casting or welding, the time is very limited, few seconds to few minutes. So within that time, although there is sufficient time for diffusion in the liquid, there is no sufficient time for diffusion in the solid. Okay. And particularly for rapid solidification like in welding or laser manufacturing, additive manufacturing, the diffusion can be assumed to be 0 in the solid. Okay, so there is no chance for diffusion in the solid at all because the time is so short, and for the liquid still we can assume that the diffusion is infinite. Okay, unless the process is very rapid. So for rapid solidification like laser melting, we cannot assume that diffusion in the liquid is infinite, because in the liquid also there won't be sufficient time. But for normal fast processes like welding or casting, we can assume that diffusion in the solid is liquid is infinite and in the solid is 0. Okay, so with this assumption, with the main assumption in Child's model is that diffusion is infinite in the liquid and 0 in the solid. Okay. In contrast, the main assumption in Lever's rule was diffusion is infinite in the liquid and infinite in the solid. Okay, so that is the difference. So now we will derive a relation between the phase fraction, means solid fraction or liquid fraction, and the concentration based on the Child's model. Okay. So we will take some more assumptions. Okay. One is that the solidification interface is at equilibrium. Okay. What does it mean? It means that although the further away solid is not in equilibrium, let me go back to that diagram again. I should have one more diagram here. This, okay. Say the solid forms like this. Initially, there was liquid of C0 concentration, and the first solid forms like this. Okay. So then the next solid forms. So if it was infinite time for Lever rule, the solid has same concentration. If it is not infinite time, and if we follow Child's rule, the solid will not have same concentration. But at the interface, near the interface, the relation between the concentration of liquid and solid is in equilibrium, means it is governed by the phase diagram. Okay, we will see what it means in a second. Okay, so we have we have equilibrium at the interface, only at the interface, not far away. Okay, so interface solidification still proceeds like equilibrium solidification. Remember that there may be some lag between my voice and the cursor movement because of slow internet connection. Okay, so what I am showing on the screen may lag from my voice a little bit. So then there is no diffusion in solid and infinite diffusion in liquid, which we have already assumed. And another point is that although there is local equilibrium at the interface, the overall material is not in equilibrium condition. Okay, so far away material is not in equilibrium condition. I will show you how the solidification progresses before we go into the derivation. Okay, so for this case, we will define a parameter which is known as partition coefficient Kp. Okay, so if we assume that the phase diagram has linear liquidus and solidus line, remember what is the liquidus line? It is this line. Okay, let me show in this. So this line is the liquidus line. Okay, so it demarcates the region between liquid and alpha solid plus liquid. Alpha solid is one type of solid where A phase is has high percentage, and A constituent has high percentage and B constituent has low percentage. Similarly, this is the solidus line. Okay, it demarcates the region between the fully solid alpha and a mixture of alpha and liquid. Okay. So we had discussed previously that when the solid forms, it forms at so the concentration, if the concentration in the liquid is Cl, the solid forms at concentration Cs. Okay, so if we draw a horizontal line like this, the first solid forms at concentration Cs. Okay, at any other point also the same thing is valid. So if the concentration of the liquid is Cl star, so again writing is very difficult with the mouse. So if the concentration of the solid is Cl star, the liquid is Cl star, the concentration in the solid is Cs star, and they are related by the phase diagram. Okay, So if we assume that these lines have constant slope, okay, they are straight lines, then we can define a partition coefficient Kp as Cs by Cl. Okay, partition coefficient Kp as Cs by Cl, and this Kp remains constant at whatever is the position in the liquidus or solidus line. So this Kp will be equal to Cs star by Cl star also, because the lines are straight lines and their slopes remain constant. So this ratio Cs by Cl always remains constant. Okay. So at any point, if the concentration in the liquid is Cl star or Cl, we know that the concentration of the solid has to be Kp into Cl. Okay. So if the concentration in the liquid is Cl, concentration in the solid has to be Kp into Cl. Okay. So because this is the ratio which is maintained. So this is what I was meaning with solidification interfaces at equilibrium. Means at the interface, if the concentration of the liquid is Cl, concentration of the solid has to be Kp into Cl. They are in equilibrium. Although the far away solid may not be in equilibrium. Okay. So as I have mentioned, if the liquidus and solidus lines are straight, then Kp is constant. Okay. Now, how the solidification proceeds? The concentration varies as shown below. Okay, so what do we see here? So initially we had a concentration. Initially we had fully liquid with a concentration C0. Okay, initially we had fully liquid with a concentration C0. Then when the first solid forms, what will be the concentration of the first solid? Because always the relation has to be maintained. That's why we have concentration P into liquid concentration. So initial liquid concentration was C0. So initial solid concentration will be Kp into C0. Okay. So the first solid forms with a concentration of Kp into C0. Okay. So this height is Kp into C0. Okay. So this ratio again is Kp into C0 divided by C0. Sorry, C0 by Kp into C0. So it is Kp into C0 by C0, which is Kp. So Cs by Cl is Kp. That relation is maintained. Okay. Now what happens? Because in the solid we have so less concentration Kp into C0, what happens with the extra material that was present here? Okay, the extra solute that was present. Okay, so if I have aluminum copper and in the copper in the solid is so less, say let us put some numbers. Okay, let Kp be 0.1. Okay, some realistic value. Kp is 0.1. C0 is 10%. So initially concentration of the copper in aluminum is 10% everywhere. Now the first solid forms with concentration of 1% because Kp is 0.1. The first solid forms with concentration of 1%. So what happens to the rest of the copper, that 9% copper that was present in the liquid? Now this CgN has become solid. So it has to go somewhere, so it will go into the liquid itself. So what will happen? The concentration in the liquid will increase somewhat. So from 10% it will slightly increase to some 10 point something percent. Okay. So because the concentration in the liquid is increasing slightly, okay, from C0, the next solid will form at a higher concentration. So the next solid will form at a higher concentration because the ratio of the solid concentration to the liquid concentration has always to be maintained. So that will always be Kp. Now because the liquid concentration has increased, so Kp into liquid concentration also has increased, which means the solid concentration has increased. So as now still what happens is that still the concentration in the solid is much less than the initial concentration. So still lot of solute like copper gets removed to the liquid. So this process is known as rejection. Okay, partitioning. So at the interface partitioning is happening, partitioning of solute from the solid to liquid, and the solute is getting rejected to the liquid. Okay, so the concentration in the liquid will increase further, and that will result in slightly more increase in the concentration in the solid. Okay, so this will keep on going. So at any point, what will we have? The concentration in the liquid will look like this Cl. It has increased from C0 because this additional solute that was present here. Okay, the additional solute that was present here. Okay, the area above the solid concentration. that solute has gone into this region. Okay, it has increased the liquid concentration. So the liquid concentration has increased, and at that moment, if the liquid concentration is Cl, the solid concentration is Kp into Cl at that moment. Okay. So what it means is that the concentration in the solid keeps on changing. Initially, it was, for the first part, it was very less. Then it has increased slightly. Then it has increased slightly, and it has increased slightly. Obviously, it will not look like steps. It will be a continuous process. It will look like this. So the concentration in the solid keeps on increasing like this. Okay, like gradually it keeps on increasing. And although the concentration at one point in the solid is less as compared to the other point, because the diffusivity is 0 in the solid, the higher concentration atoms from here cannot diffuse to the other part. So it remains in this condition, frozen in this condition. Unlike Lever rule, where if the solute diffusivity was infinite, this would have got balanced and we would have obtained something like this. Okay. In this case, the solid concentration remains like this. At what condition the solidification has occurred, that will remain frozen for the entire time. Okay, it is not going to change at all because diffusivity is 0. So to summarize, initially only liquid is present at C0 concentration. The first solid forms at KpC0 concentration. The excess solute, excess part which was present in the liquid, okay, it remains in the liquid and increases the concentration of the liquid. This process is known as rejection. Okay. As a result of the increase of Cl, the concentration in the solid also increases. Okay, so Cs is equal to KpCl also increases. So the newly formed solid has higher concentration than the previously formed solid. Okay, this is very important. Newly formed solid has higher concentration than the previously formed solid. As the diffusivity is 0 in the solid, the concentration in the solid remains frozen. That is, it does not change with time. So any solid which is formed with higher concentration will remain at higher concentration, and any solid which is formed with lower concentration will remain at lower concentration. Okay. Any questions on this one? Is it clear? Process is clear to everyone? So if it is clear, yes. Questions?
Yes, it is clear.
Okay. So let us move on to the derivation. We want to find out the relation between phase fraction Gs, how much solid is formed, and what is the concentration. Similar to what we have found using Lever rule, but in this case, obviously, the relation will be different. Okay. So during this process of solidification, say we have reached certain point when the liquid concentration is Cl and the solid concentration is Kp into Cl. Okay, this is denoted here. Let the concentration and volume fraction has reached certain point in solidification as shown below. Okay, so at this point, the liquid concentration is Cl and the solid concentration has reached this point. Okay, Cs. So this is the point. Okay, so we have reached this point. Okay. Concentration in the solid is Cs, concentration in the liquid is Cl, and Cs and Cl are related by Kp into Cs is equal to Kp into Cl. Okay, as per the uh, equilibrium condition at the interface. Now a small amount of solidification has occurred and the new solid has formed with something like, because very slight increase in Cs will occur, we will assume that it has formed something like this. Okay, so this is the new solid that has formed. That is, I am showing by the green area. Okay, this is the concentration of the new solid, and because the concentration of the solid is less than the Cl, so what happens to the extra material that was present? There was some extra material that was present. Okay, extra solute. This amount of solute was extra. This will go into the liquid. Okay, so whatever is the liquid, that concentration will increase. So the liquid concentration, it was Cl, now it has increased by an amount DCl, a small amount DCl. Okay. So now the new liquid concentration is Cl plus DCl. Okay. So we have the new liquid concentration as Cl plus DCl, and the new solid fraction is Gs plus DGS. Okay. Initially the solid fraction, volume fraction of solid was Gs. Now the volume fraction of solid fraction has increased by DGS. Okay. So now the new solid volume is Gs plus DGS. Okay. So if we equate the amount that is removed from the solid, okay, this amount, it is better to use some other color. So if we equate this amount, okay, which is removed from the solid, this is equal to the amount which has increased the concentration in the liquid. Okay. So to summarize, after an infinitesimal increase in Gs, okay, by an amount DGS, the liquid concentration increases by DCl. Okay. So from mass balance of element B, okay, because element B gets removed from the solid and goes into liquid, Cl minus Cs into DGS, we will assume that not much change is occurring in the concentration. So Cl minus Cs, so this line minus this line, Cl minus Cs into DGS. So this is the area, Cl minus Cs into DGS. We are not considering Cs plus DCS, like small increase in solid concentration we are not considering because of DCl, because we will have an increase of concentration Kp into DCl, but if we multiply by DGS, it is a multiplication of two very small amounts, so it will be almost equal to 0. Okay. So we will just assume that the concentration of the solid remains as Cs. So Cl minus Cs into DGS is equal to this area, okay, which is the remaining liquid fraction Gl, okay, Gl into DCl, okay, remaining liquid fraction Gl into DCl. So we are equating this area with this area. Okay, I hope this is clear. So amount of solute which gets rejected is equal to amount of solute which increases the concentration in the liquid. Okay. So this amount is Cl minus Cs. From the diagram it is clear, Cl minus Cs into DGS. This is equal to Gl into, this is Gl into DCl. Okay, that is the increase that has occurred. So now we can do the calculation. This is the important step. Once you understand this, it is just mathematical calculation. So Cl minus Cl into DGS is equal to Gl, I can write as 1 minus Gs. Gl is the volume fraction of liquid, Gs is the volume fraction of solid. Okay. So volume fraction of liquid plus volume fraction of solid is 100%, 1. So volume fraction of liquid is 1 minus volume fraction of solid. So Gl I can write as 1 minus Gs into DCl. Why I have written as 1 minus Gs? Because I have a DGS here, so that I can integrate later on. So I will just keep this open, diagram open. Okay. And we will do the calculation parallelly. So that you can refer to the diagram. So Cs now we can write, Cs will be always Kp into Cl for equilibrium solidification, right? Because that is how we have defined here. That Cs is always going to be Kp into Cl based on the phase diagram. Okay. So we can write this Cs as Kp into Cl. So Cl minus Kp into Cl DGS is equal to 1 minus Gs DCl. Why I have written this as Kp into Cl? Because we have a DCl here, and again we want to integrate with respect to Cl. So now rearranging the terms, DGS by 1 minus Gs is equal to DCl by Cl minus KPCl, or 1 minus Kp into whole into Cl. Okay. Now integrating, so where from the integration starts? From Gs equal to 0. Okay. So if Gs is equal to 0, at that point Cl is equal to C0. If Gs is equal to 0, Cl is equal to C0. Okay. So and now at this position Gs is equal to some value Gs and Cl is equal to some value Cl. Okay. So going from 0 to GS, dGs by 1 minus GS is equal to going from C0 to CL, dCl by 1 minus Kp Cl. Okay. So Cl has increased from C0 to some value Cl. Okay. While the solid fraction has increased from 0 to GS. So integrating this, we get minus ln 1 minus GS going from 0 to GS is equal to 1 by 1 minus Kp ln Cl going from C0 to Cl. So after some rearrangement, you get Kp minus 1, you take this to the other side, Kp minus 1 ln 1 minus GS minus ln 1 minus 0, which is equal to 0, is equal to ln Cl by C0, or Kp minus 1 ln 1 minus GS is equal to ln Cl by C0. So you can just do this, it's just algebraic calculation. Or if I remove the logs, we are left with Cl is equal to C0 into 1 minus GS Kp minus 1, means 1 minus GS to the power Kp minus 1. Okay, because this Kp minus 1 was outside the log, it has come as power. So this is the relation between the concentration of liquid and the solid fraction, okay, or liquid fraction. So I can also write this as C0 into GL to the power Kp minus 1, because 1 minus GS is GL. I can write this as Cl is equal to C0 GL to the power Kp minus 1. Okay. And remember that Cs is always equal to Cl into Kp. So Cs can be written as Kp into this term. Okay, so Cs is equal to Kp into C0, 1 minus Gs Kp minus 1. Okay, whole to the power Kp minus 1. So this gives us the relation or the relation between the volume fraction Gs and the concentration Cs. Okay. So this equation is different from the Lever rule. There also we could find the volume fraction using a very simple equation. Here the equation is much more complicated, but this is more valid. This is valid when the solidification does not have enough time for diffusion in the solid to occur. Okay. We will put some values and see the differences through a problem today. So let us first see what happens when Gs is equal to 0. When Gs is 0 means there is no solid. We are at this point. According to this equation, 1 minus 0. So 1 to the power Kp minus 1. So 1. So Cl is equal to C0. That we have already established. And Cs is equal to Kp into C0. That also we have established. Okay. So at the beginning of the solidification, Cl is equal to C0 and Cs is equal to Kp into C0. What does the equation gives at the end of the solidification? So if Gs is almost equal to 1 or equal to 1, okay, means full solidification has occurred. So 1 minus 0, sorry, 1 minus 1, so 0, 0 to the power some negative value. Kp is less than 1. Remember, Kp will be always less than 1 because Kp is this ratio. Kp is Cs by Cl, so Kp will be always less than 1. So Kp can be 0.1, 0.2 or 0.15, something like that. So if Kp is less than 1, Kp minus 1 is less than 0. So it's negative. So it is 1 by 0 to the power something, which is infinite. Okay. So Cl goes to infinite and Cs also, which is Kp into infinite, also goes to infinite. So if Gs tends to 1, both Cl and Cs goes to infinite. So Child's model cannot actually capture accurately the end of solidification, okay, because in real life you cannot go to infinite concentration, obviously, so everything has to be finite. So Child's model cannot accurately capture the end of the solidification. It is good for the beginning and middle part, but towards the end it fails. Okay, what happens in real life? If I go to the phase diagram, we are starting with C0 concentration. Okay, we are starting with C0 concentration. C0 concentration in liquid, and in the solid we have Kp into C0. So in the liquid C0, in the solid Kp into C0. So with time the concentration in the liquid increases and in the solid also increases, always remains as Kp into whatever is Cl. Okay, so the Cl keeps on increasing with time and the concentration in the solid also keeps on increasing. So one time comes when the concentration in the liquid becomes equal to the eutectic concentration. Okay. So after the concentration has increased, keeps on increasing, we reach eutectic concentration in the liquid. Okay. At this point, the process of solidification change. It changes and it becomes like eutectic solidification. Okay. So once you reach this Cl, at this point, so Cl is equal to Ce, eutectic concentration Ce. Okay. At this point, concentration is Ce. So once you reach this point, the solid concentration also still remains Kp into C, Cl star, which is Kp into C. So this concentration in the solid is Kp into Ce. Okay. When this point comes, when the liquid concentration becomes equal to C and the solid concentration becomes equal to Kp into C, then the rest of the liquid solidifies at concentration C using eutectic solidification, like what we had shown previously. Okay. We have shown here how the eutectic solidification progresses. It just solidifies at that eutectic concentration in this lamellar form. Okay. So rest of the solidification proceeds in a different manner. So if I draw in this diagram, so volume fraction versus concentration, it will look like this. So initially the concentration of the solid increases, okay, and in the liquid also it increases. The ratio Kp is always maintained. Cs by Cl is always Kp until the Cl value reaches Ce. Okay, until the Cl value reaches Ce. At this point, rest of the solidification occurs at concentration C. So the solid concentration will look like this. Okay, whatever I have shown by the hashed area. Okay, I will just draw it here once. So the solid concentration will increase from KpCl to Kp into C, and then there will be a sudden jump in the concentration, and rest of the solid will solidify at Ce. Okay, because in eutectic solidification there is no partitioning. So whatever was the liquid concentration, same is the solid concentration, like a pure material. So this is the solid concentration. Okay, it increases from KpC0 to KpC, and then the final solid occurs, solidification occurs as C. Okay, so we will never reach this type of ending infinite, because once we reach this, our Schall's law is not valid anymore. We have to assume that rest of the solidification occurs at C concentration. So Schall's law is valid only till this point. Okay, till this point. After that, it is not valid. So we can find out at what volume fraction of GS, at what volume fraction GS, this eutectic solidification is reached. Means at what volume fraction, what will be the volume fraction of eutectic? 1 minus GS, and what will be the volume fraction of normal solid, normal alpha solid, which is GS. Okay. So remember that from the equation, Cl is equal to C0 into 1 minus GS Kp to the power minus 1. Okay. So 1 minus GS is the volume fraction of the liquid. Okay. Volume fraction of the liquid. So when Cl reaches Ce, okay, I can write this as C is equal to C0 1 minus GS Kp to the power 1. Okay. So if I write here C, so it means that the solid fraction at that point is equal to this solid fraction. Okay, it is equal to this solid fraction. At that point, the concentration has reached Ce. Okay, so with this now, we can write that C is equal to C0 1 minus GS Kp to the power, whole to the power Kp minus 1, or ln Ce by C0 is equal to Kp minus 1 ln 1 minus GS. Because GS is the fraction of alpha phase, 1 minus GS is the fraction of eutectic. Okay, so I can write 1 minus GS is equal to G, which is the fraction of eutectic. So instead of ln 1 minus GS, I can write ln into GE. So by removing the log, we can write this as G is equal to C by C0 whole to the power 1 by Kp minus 1. Okay. So this is the fraction of eutectic, and similarly you can find the fraction of alpha phase, which is 1 minus fraction of eutectic. Okay. So if you know what is the eutectic concentration, we will be able to find out the volume fractions of eutectic and alpha phase, or at what point the alpha phase solidification finishes and eutectic solidification starts. We will go into an example so as to illustrate this point. So after the example, I hope things will be clear. Okay. And we will show the difference also between Lever rule and Child's rule. So binary alloy with eutectic phase diagram, okay, has an initial concentration of 10% B and is in liquid phase. Okay. So I will keep the diagram open here so that I can draw. So initially concentration is 10%. Okay, this is 10% line. C0 is 10% concentration. The eutectic concentration is 30%. So CE is 30%. Okay. So if this is 0.1, this is 0.3. If I write in terms of fractions instead of percentage. And Kp is equal to 0.1. Okay, partition coefficient Kp is equal to 0.1. We have to find the fraction of eutectic in the final solid. Okay, we have to find the volume fraction of eutectic in the final solid using Lever rule and using the Scheil model. Okay, remember that in both cases solidification will progress like this. So initial solid will form at C0 and then we will go to higher and higher concentrations and finally we will reach eutectic concentration and rest of the solidification will occur at eutectic concentration. So we want to find out what is the fraction of eutectic and for equilibrium solidification and for non-equilibrium solidification. Okay. So for equilibrium solidification, if it is stated that equilibrium solidification, it means Lever rule. Okay, we can just use the Lever rule. Okay, so the volume fraction of eutectic, which is this volume fraction of eutectic, is equal to the length of the opposite line, right? Divided by the length of the total line. So length of the opposite side line is this length. Okay, what is this length? C0 minus, if I call this as C alpha, C0 minus C alpha, okay, by total length, which is C minus C alpha. C0 minus C alpha minus C minus C alpha divided by C minus C alpha. So what is C alpha? By using partition coefficient, we can see that C alpha is clearly Kp into Ce. Okay, C alpha is Kp into Ce. It is clear that C alpha is Kp into Ce. Okay, so arrow is wrong. Okay, no, it is correct. This is Kp into C. Okay, and this is C0. So we can substitute C alpha by Kp into C. So we can write C0 minus Kp into C divided by C minus Kp into C. We can put the values. Remember that C0 is given as 0.1. Okay, 10%, which is 0.1. Kp is 0.1 and C is 0.3. So 0.1 into 0.3 is 0.03. Kp into C is 0.03 divided by C, which is 0.3, minus Kp into C, which is 0.03. So this gives us 7 by 27, which is equal to 0.259. So the volume fraction of eutectic is 25.9% and rest of it means 74.1% is alpha solid. Okay, eutectic is 25.9%, rest of it is alpha solid. Any questions? Using just the simple Lever rule that we had studied in the previous class, the opposite length by the total length will give you the volume fraction. If somebody asks you to find the volume fraction of alpha, you can easily find it by this length C minus C0 by C minus C alpha. Okay, like this we can find the volume fraction and we will find that it is 0.741. Now using the Child's model, if we want to find what is the Child's equation, for eutectic we have found that G is equal to C by C0 whole to the power 1 by Kp minus 1. Okay, you can derive it from this equation we have seen already. So G is equal to C by C0 whole to the power 1 minus Kp minus 1 by Kp minus 1. So using the Child's equation we can write G is equal to C, which is 0.3, okay, and C0 is 0.1 whole to the power 1 by Kp. Kp is 0.1 minus 1. Okay, whole to the power 1 by minus 0.9. So this will give you a value of G which is 0.295, different value. Okay, so eutectic concentration with Child's model, assuming that the solidification is non-equilibrium, it's a fast solidification, the percentage of eutectic is larger. Okay, so it is 29.5% and the percentage of alpha phase is 70.5%. Okay, so this is how the difference, you can see the difference between equilibrium and non-equilibrium solidification. Any questions? So if some problem comes in the exams like this, you can expect problems like this. Okay, so say some values are given similar to this simple problem. What will be the, say, phase fraction of alpha, or phase fraction, volume fraction of eutectic, or if the volume fraction of eutectic is given, I can ask you what is the initial concentration, something like that. Okay, so this type of problem should be very clear to you. These are very simple. Once you have a good understanding of the process, it's just, these are like one line problems. Okay. So if there are no questions, I will proceed further. We have only a small amount left. Actually, I will reduce the syllabus a little bit. So we will ignore a few pages from the notes. I will let you know tomorrow in tomorrow's class. So we don't need all these things, okay, for our course. Some of the things was extra things which I had put, because last time we had, this note I had prepared in the last, for the last semester. So there I had more time, and I put some extra materials which is not needed. So we will remove 5-6 pages from this material for your course. Anyway, so I will just start with an introduction of what we are going to study in tomorrow's class. So we will go through couple of processes, okay, real life processes. One is known as 1D solidification or Bridgman solidification. This is used for manufacturing of turbine blades. Okay, nowadays it is used for manufacturing of turbine blades. And the second process we will see is zone melting. Okay, so when turbine blades were initially manufactured, the turbine blades had a microstructure. So I think I have some old pictures also. Let's see. This is the Bridgman solidification. I have any picture of turbine blades. I have not gone through this PPT this time because we don't need this, but I will show you one case. Okay, of the turbine blades, because we have sufficient time. Okay, so turbine blades are one of the most important components of turbine. Okay, so all of you have read in power plant or gas turbine course that turbine blades are one of the most important component of turbine. Why? Because the temperature, maximum temperature in the cycle is governed by the turbine blade material. Okay, so the maximum temperature in the cycle is faced by the first stage turbine blade. Okay, just after the furnace or combustion chamber. Furnace in case of means boiler in case of steam turbines, and combustion chamber in case of gas turbines. So the first stage turbine blades need to be a very high quality material, so that they can withstand this high temperature for long duration. So nowadays these are made of super alloys, but when they were initially made, they were just casted. Like initially means I am talking about in 1950s. Okay, they were just casted by using investment casting. So you had a mold prepared using ceramic, and you poured liquid alloy, liquid nickel or liquid steel, and the solid blade was obtained. Okay, in the desired shape. You can see the slide, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so like this it was prepared. So the microstructure in that case looked like something like this. If you zoomed in the using a microscope, it look like that there are multiple grains like this. What we have seen in our what I had shown in our EQX solidification for our solidification for the alpha phase. So multiple nuclei would form initially from the liquid. There will be nucleation of multiple solid particles, and each of them will grow like a grain. Okay, this is known as EQX crystal structure, and the blade resulted in EQX crystal structure. Okay, of a certain strength. Now this was during the 1950s. So to increase the strength, scientists came up with a nice idea. Okay, they found that if we can change the solidification process, instead of directly casting like this, if we can do a one directional, like a directional solidification. So what is this directional solidification? So I will not show you all these things. Okay. So for directional solidification, say you have a mold like this. Okay, this inside part is the mold. Okay, I will send you these 2-3 slides. So say you have a mold like this, okay, and it is filled with liquid. The mold is made of ceramic, it is filled with liquid material. Okay, nowadays it is filled with liquid superalloy. I will come into what is superalloy later on. Okay, and this is held in a furnace. Okay, this is held in a furnace at high temperature. So when you gradually pull out this mold from the furnace outside, in the outside you have put liquid bath. Okay, so outside you have a liquid cooling. So when you bring it out, inside it was very hot, outside it is cold. So there is a very quick solidification just at the transition region. Okay, its diagram is not very accurate. The solidification will occur somewhere around here uh, when the material comes out from the hot furnace to the cold liquid. Okay, so the solidification always occurs at a very thin region. Okay, so when the solidification initially starts, when the mold was inside, it starts with the formation of a few nucleus, okay, few nuclei, few small particles of solid in this thin region at the bottom. And because the solidification is always restricted to a small region, no new nuclei can form. Okay, so whatever initial nuclei was present, they will only keep on solidifying. So what will happen is that we will have grains which just emerge from this initial nuclei. So the grains will become very elongated like structures. Okay, so the grains will become very elongated like structures like this. So you will have long grains in the direction of solidification. Okay, so the advantage of this is that we have very high creep resistance in the direction of in the longitudinal direction. So why do we need very large creep resistance in the longitudinal direction? Because when the blades are rotating, they undergo lot of stress in the lot of centrifugal stress in the direction of the length of the blade, not in the cross sectional direction. Only in the direction of the length of the blade, they have lot of centrifugal stress. So over the time, even at constant stress, the blade will elongate. Okay, because it is operating at high temperature. This we have already discussed. This is known as creep, and because of this elongation, the blade may strike the casing, and it may lead to catastrophic failure. Okay, so creep is a big problem in turbine blades, and actually the temperature, when I was saying in the previous classes that, or in power plant engineering or gas turbines, that temperature is limited by the temperature of the turbine blade, whatever turbine blades can sustain. It is the temperature at which creep is very low. Okay, it is not the temperature of melting of the blade. Okay, so blade will melt at a very high temperature, but because of the creep, we have to keep the temperature limited to a lower temperature. So the blade may melt at 1800 degrees centigrade, but the creep, sufficient or very large creep, can occur at 1200 Kelvin or 1000 degrees centigrade. Okay, so we have to limit the temperature to that. So this process is known as directional solidification or Bridgman solidification. Okay, we have run out of time. We will continue this discussion in tomorrow's class, and we will finish our course in tomorrow's class. Okay, so tomorrow we have the last class, and we have sufficient time for finishing the course. So I just have 2 examples. We'll go through it and reduce some of the long derivations which are not required. Okay. So we will meet tomorrow at 11. Okay. Let me take the attendance. Although I am not going to use it, but